Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to tonight's meeting of the Mayor and Board of Trustees for the Village of Burr Ridge. Today is July 24th. Our first order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, and I'll ask everyone to rise.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Karen, may I have roll call, please?
Trustee Francis.
Here.
Trustee Model.
Here.
Trustee Pavesa.
Here.
Trustee Mattel.
Here.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Scalpa.
Here.
Mayor Straub.
Here. Now for the residents' comments. Are there any residents who would like to address the board at this time? Seeing no one, we'll move on to the consent agenda. All items listed with an asterisk are considered to be routine by the village board and will be enacted by one motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless a board member or citizen so requests, in which event it will be removed. Under minutes, we have 6A, approval of regular board meeting of June 26, 2017. 5A. 5B, approval of a regular board meeting of July 10th, 2017. 5C, receive and file draft plan commission meeting of July 17th, 2017. 5D, receive and file draft stormwater committee meeting of July 17th, 2017. Under ordinances, we have 6A, approval of an ordinance granting conditional sign approval as per the Village of Burr Ridge signed ordinance for approval of a sign with more than 3 colors at S01 2017, located at 16W115 83rd Street, RCM data. Under resolutions, we have adoption of resolution appointing a delegate and alternate delegate to the Intergovernmental Risk Management Agency, otherwise known as IRMA. Under considerations, we have 8D, approval recommendation to award contract for pavement marking. E, receive and file draft retirement letter from Sergeant Jerry Karcheski, effective August 3rd, 2017. F, approval of recommendation to authorize the Board of Fire and Police Commissioners to promote a corporal to the rank of sergeant, to promote a patrol officer to the rank of corporal, and to hire a replacement patrol officer to fill the vacancy created by the retirement of Sergeant Jerry Karcheski. G, approval of requests for raffle license for aging care, connections, and hosting facility license for Chicago Marriott Southwest Burr Ridge for its fundraising event on September 15th, 2017. H, approval request from Burr Ridge Burr Ridge Park District for donation from Hotel Motel tax funds for the Park District's 2017 Harvest Fest event. I, approval of recommendation to reappoint Louisa Hawk to the Pathway Commission for a 3-year term expiring September 10th, 2019. Her current term expired on September in 2016. And J, approval of vendor list in the amount of $927,580.13 for all funds, plus $219,293.74 for payroll, for a grand total of $1,146,873.86, which includes special expenditures of $26,766 to Allied Painting Services for exterior painting at Village Hall, Police Department, and Public Works Storage Building, $311,753.39 to Schroeder Asphalt Service for the 2017 Motor Fuel Tax Road Program asphalt paving. May I have a motion to approve the following items on the consent agenda? We have 5A, B, C, and D, 6A, 7A, 8, D, E, F, G, H, I, and J.
So moved.
Second.
Second. Roll call, please.
Trustee Scalpa.
Yes.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Mattel.
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa.
Yes.
Trustee Model.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
6-0.
Passes 6-0. Under considerations, we have 8A, Consideration of Planning Commission recommendation to deny an amendment to the Burridge zoning ordinance to consider allowing greater rear yard lot coverage for structures that use permeable paver systems. That's Z 05-2017 zoning ordinance amendment, rear lot coverage, and permeable pavers. Kevin?
Good evening, Board. Just like to catch you up on the background of this issue before we get into what the Plan Commission recommended this past Monday. A few months ago, in response to a variation to rear lot coverage that was granted by the Board, the Plan Commission conducted a public hearing to consider an amendment to the zoning ordinance to alter the rear yard lot coverage based on the use of permeable paver systems. At this hearing, the Plan Commission recommended no changes to the zoning ordinance. Upon receiving this recommendation, the Board directed the Plan Commission to conduct another public hearing to receive testimony from an industry provider of permeable systems. Representatives from Unilock, an industry provider, made a presentation to the Plan Commission at the July 17th meeting and participated in a discussion of the technology thereafter. You have two recommendations before you this evening from the Plan Commission. The first is a recommendation not to proceed with an amendment to the zoning ordinance related to rear lot coverage. And the second is a recommendation to encourage through incentives the use of permeable paver systems as a method for replacing impermeable surfaces in presently permitted rear lot areas. So the first recommendation dealt with an amendment to section 4.h.9 of the zoning ordinance, which states that the combined horizontal area of all accessory buildings, structures, and uses shall not exceed 30% of the rear principal building area. This amendment was to consider allowing greater coverage based on the use of permeable paver systems, such as increasing the percentage of the buildable area if permeable paver systems were used, so raising that number to 35, 40%, et cetera. The second recommendation dealt with incentivizing residents to use permeable paver systems in place of impermeable surfaces in currently permitted areas, so within that 30% threshold that currently exists within our zoning ordinance. The Plan Commission felt that permeable pavers would provide better drainage than an impermeable surface and would provide a benefit therein to the resident and the village jointly. As such, the Plan Commission recommended that the village create incentives to encourage their use. However, the Plan Commission specifically recommended against allowing for additional building on green space as an incentive for this action, so not to encourage more use than the 30% coverage that's presently allowed. Furthermore, the Stormwater Committee also met on July 17th and made the same two recommendations to the Board. Should the Board choose to explore incentivizing the use of permeable paver systems, the Stormwater Committee will meet to consider potential incentives at their August 8th meeting and forward their recommendations to the Board for further discussion. Both recommendations from Plan and Stormwater are available in your packet, and I am happy to answer any questions that any of you may have at this time.
Okay. Board members like to have any questions for Evan? Okay. And the
I have a question.
sorry.
The permeable pavers, these are new, right? And do they have like a track record? Because I was told by someone that, they're permeable for a few years and then they get clogged up and then they don't really function as permeable ones.
Relatively speaking, permeable paver systems, we're talking about the bricks on top and then the system below it, below ground, is a relatively new innovation in landscaping technology. I would say it's probably been around for 15 or 20 years. Unilock is designing and coming out with, just speaking with what they had mentioned on the Plan Commission on Monday, they're coming out with new products every 3 or 4 years, but that was part of the Plan Commission discussion, was how do we actually maintain the full effectiveness of a permeable paver. There was discussion about how we could feasibly, the village feasibly make recurring inspections a thing, but that was deemed to be unfeasible by the Plan Commission at that time. So.
And then I have another question. I mean, everything is driven by cost. What is the difference between permeable versus non-permeable? Is it double half?
Sure. So it really depends on the product that you're getting from the permeable side. Obviously, a permeable paver is more expensive than just your basic stamped concrete asphalt driveway. So there is a premium involved there. Thus, the kind of the need for an incentive to use such a system in your yard. Definitely is a cost premium there for a permeable system.
Okay. And we have a Plan Commissioner present. Would you like to add anything, any historical data or information regarding it at all? If you do, you're welcome to come to the microphone.
I do have to comment. My name is Jim Brolin, and I'm on the Plan Commission. And for those who don't know much about me in the past, I am an engineer, and I can't say the word engineer sometimes, I understand, but I am a lead AP. And if a little bit of the history, I can't give you all the detailed history of permeable materials, but I can tell you this, that they became more prevalent and more in use once there was more attention paid to use of green space. And leadership in energy and environmental development was a leader in promoting some of the concepts that have led to more use of permeable materials and other materials that were energy efficient and good for the environment. Evan is absolutely accurate in the views of the Plan Commission and our recommendations. There were two motions that were voted on. Both of them dealt with residential space. And the second motion had to do with whether or not to promote the use of permeable materials, and there was a clause added to that recommendation that said, except in the coverage of green space beyond 30% coverage. That, in my view, was primarily an aesthetic decision, didn't necessarily relate to the drainage aspects of permeable materials. We've learned in the last 2 months a lot that I didn't know about permeable surfaces just because of all the work that Evan and the engineer for the village did and the presentation that Uniloc provided when they came before us last Monday. One of the things is that one question that comes up, and I heard this tonight also already, is it as permeable as grass? Is it as permeable as green space? And the answer that Uniloc people provided was it's comparable. It doesn't mean it's the same, but it's comparable. The second problem that we dealt with in the first meeting that we discussed the use of permeable materials was that there was no consideration of the engineering aspects of putting down permeable materials beyond just the material itself. It's not just a coverage. It has a substrate. And everything that's underneath the permeable surface has to be engineered correctly so that it drains and there's somewhere for the water to go. It won't work in every occasion on every coverage area. However, we are seeing a lot more use on industrial spaces and commercial spaces for the use of permeable materials. And I expect we're going to see more of that, and that probably is a cost consideration. I don't know the figures for that, but I can see that that's going to come on more. Third, I want to remind the trustees, for those who weren't here, for the first time you may hear this, there was a motion put before the Plan Commission to allow a variance a year ago for a resident to expand the coverage on his rear lot, and we recommended against it because it exceeded the 30% coverage on his rear lot. I think he went to 38% coverage. We recommended against it because it didn't meet the current standards, the ordinances, and then when it was voted on by the trustees overrode our recommendation and accepted it. And so they did complete that work, I understand. We don't know what kind of effort went into engineering that properly, but I'm concerned, and I have been concerned, that the village didn't have any guidelines set up for how to analyze the use of permeable surfaces, especially when that's presented as a good reason for a variance on a property that may need to have a variance. And so I'm looking at the way we voted on not to cover any more than 30% of property with non-grass as a restriction on that kind of thought. I think we need to think more about what is it that we can approve, what process would that go through, both in the case of commercial property as well as residential property. Oh, by the way, I did find there's an article I just found out about. It's in the Doings, the 20th, and the title is Willowbrook receives $90,000 grant for 2 parking lots, and they're using permeable surfaces. This is a federal grant or a state grant, and forgive me, I haven't read it all yet, but the one thing I did see was that permeable paver stone parking surfaces actually reduce the amount of water runoff and will eliminate the pollutants that enter through waterways, according to Mr. Halleck. And so they're giving a place for water to go other than in settling ponds. And we also heard on Monday night that paver brick and the material that's between the paver bricks can actually filter water that's coming through it of different contaminants. So there's another aspect of paver solutions that can help.
It sounds like,
Anything else?
it's a story still unfolding. You know,
Sure it is, yeah. Yes.
good.
Any questions?
Anything else? Any questions of, Planning Commissioner?
Following this thing through as a member of the Stormwater Committee, I was really figuring that Permeable Pavers was going to help alleviate some of the green space that's required. But the more I got into it, it don't appear to help unless you put in the whole system. And if you don't put in the whole system with the base underneath it and the pipes and everything else, if you don't put the whole system, it doesn't help. And the more we talked about it, putting it in for a driveway or a patio, cost-wise made no sense. And,
Expensive.
you know, that's one of the reasons I gotta agree with the Plan Commission.
And it was like a 5-to-1 vote, wasn't it, or
No, it was 6-0.
6-0?
Yeah.
Gotcha. So, yeah, I
It
got
was-
it.
It was 5-1 to not continue the discussion, but it was 6-0 for the motion.
Gotcha. Any other questions of Jim?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, trustee Francis?
I have comments. About the whole presentation. First of all, are you speaking on behalf of yourself or on behalf of the Plan Commission?
Plan Commission.
So those are the comments that you shared tonight, are the comments that were shared by the Plan Commission. You summarized them tonight.
Yes, but I have I hope I did express where my opinions were my opinions, but it's the Plan Commission that I'm here to represent. And the Plan Commission did vote no to both those
I
motions.
understand that, but
Yeah.
so I attended the meetings. Stormwater Committee also concurred with the Plan Commission on 2 occasions that it's a great system. It solves a lot of problems for certain areas, but it should not be used in lieu of green space. Looking at the Unilock brochure, they show examples of some of their installations. Every one of them is a commercial or a commercial installation. I'll pass that around. They're not showing any residential driveways. I mean, this is a great problem solver if you're in a village that is challenged for green space, like LaGrange or Hinsdale or whatever, but we're not challenged for green space in this village. We have estate-sized lots, large acreage to work with, and there's no reason why someone should be able to, there's no reason there should be a hardship incurred when you're building on a green site to incur overbuilding and encroach upon any of the floor area ratios or any of the green space requirements for on a lot. They are engineered systems, so they're going to be expensive to engineer, they're going to be expensive to design, expensive to approve, expensive to review, expensive to maintain. Not like a standard paved driveway where any landscape contractor can put those in. These are systems that have to be engineered, and they really get challenged on sites that are not level, that have changes in elevations, because stepped excavating has to be put in, drainage lines, they have to be collected somewhere. It's quite extensive. But if a homeowner wants to install that, sure, we'll encourage that, but it should not be used in lieu of green space when we have plenty of green space in this village. One other comment I had was that they are not the same, it is not the same as soil. The village engineer presented a chart that showed that it was halfway in between hard surface, hard impervious asphalt, and grass with a factor of 0.3. They have factors and compare that to total soil absorption, and it was somewhere in the middle. So there's a trade-off there. It does help out, but it is not the same absorption as grass. Unfortunately, I don't have the table with me, but I'd be happy to get it for all of you. Finally, this solves a lot of problems in parking lots, in areas where stormwater detention is a challenge. They're used extensively at Cellular Field, at Morton Arboretum, other lots where Dominican University, where stormwater retention is limited because of the land space that the owners have to work with.
In case of Morton Arboretum, the parking lot's adjacent to a river. They couldn't have all that runoff flowing right into the river from the parking lot. It would overwhelm the residents downstream. So they had to put in something, and they didn't want to devote a large detention basin to do that. So they solved it with permeable paver system. So that's the comments I have. Thank you.
Thank you. No, that's not done with the board yet, Alice. Any other comments or questions of Jim? Trustees? Now, I'm sorry, Trustee Scapa?
Hearing, I'm on the stormwater committee as well. And part of the conversation is that this Unilock system of permeable pavers is a great alternative to driveways and streets, but not as fluid as grass. So it's something, what I understand, just great for driveways and sidewalks. But it's not, and even from the comments that I read here, that Unilock says that it's a great alternative for concrete and asphalt driveways. He didn't mention anything about grass.
Right. Yeah, nothing takes place of that.
Yeah, the Unilock presentation emphasized the use on large spaces, and every example they showed us was a commercial type driveway or parking lot. It was not residential.
Yeah, just like Willowbrook, the police department, they're going to use it for commercial, and not for green space. So, okay, anyone else? Trustee Francis?
I'm sorry, one more comment. I printed out, I went to the Unilock site today and printed out their maintenance guide for permeable paver systems, 13 pages long. So what to do if you've got this problem or that problem, and so forth. It's quite extensive. And sure, if we were to allow a homeowner to put this in lieu of green space, and the next homeowner is burdened with this maintenance, and the homeowner after that's burdened with this maintenance, and someone else has to keep track of that. That means somebody from village staff has to keep track of it, make sure it's functioning properly, and we won't know if it's functioning properly unless there's a complaint from someone downstream. Biggest enemy of these permeable pavers is leaves and grass clippings, and we are blessed in this town with many, many trees and many, many leaves. So it's going to become a maintenance issue for the homeowner.
Thank you. Anyone else? Now, residents' comments?
Thank you. Alice Krampitz, 7515 Drew, and I'm speaking on behalf of Mark. Toma, 7515 Drew. He's not able to attend tonight. So follow up on some things that everyone has said here. We know it's an important purpose of permeable pavers to mitigate water problems. Allowing the use of permeable pavers as a reason to increase hard surface cover area is a direct conflict, we think, with the Burr Ridge Master Plan, which is to have large open spaces and have homes on beautiful natural settings. We also attended the Plan Commission meeting. I'm on the Stormwater Committee, attended that meeting, and we listened to a lot of pros and cons about permeable pavers. And according to the village staff, there are those towns that are offering a credit for hard surface cover when permeable pavers are used. However, the majority of these towns are high-density areas with small lots, which is not the case in Burr Ridge, a lot like what Mr. Francis said. So a typical lot size in Burr Ridge is 1 acre, and our current zoning allows the 30% hard surface coverage, which equals over 13,000 square feet of coverage. So think about that in comparison to your house. You're going to add on, that's 13,000 square feet. That's a lot. It's an extremely large area, and that should be sufficient for any residents in Burr Ridge with outbuildings and whatever they need, their house. So perhaps we would consider permeable pavers in an R3 area or an R5, or, as we've already mentioned, commercial projects like parking lots could benefit from permeable pavers. But we're just not a high-density area. So we also know that green space is preferred by many residents. This is one of the many reasons that people move here. So we believe that with good zoning ordinances, which we have in place, Careful planning and proper landscaping with appropriate plants done by the homeowners will offer superior results compared to permeable pavers when mitigating water problems. So we do not believe that we should change our ordinance. We do not want to see any change in this matter. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, any other comments, discussion? Do I have a motion on the table to accept their recommendation to deny?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Trustee Snyder?
Yes.
Trustee Pavesa?
Yes.
Trustee Model?
Yes.
Trustee Francis?
Yes?
Trustee Mattel?
Yes.
Trustee Scalpa?
Yes.
6-0.
Motion passes 6-0. Now we have 8B, update on implementation of the scavenger service franchise agreement with Groot Industries.
It would be me.
Oh, that'd be you? And you want to pull in the garbage cans?
I think we're
A
good.
little show and tell?
If I had someone to pop out of one of the cans,
okay.
didn't get that. Thank you. We just wanted to provide you an update and the public an update and an opportunity to ask questions about the pending implementation of the franchise agreement with Groot Industries. The board is well aware of it. I think the public is well aware of where we're at, but in summary, the board approved a franchise agreement with Groot Industries on May 8th, 2017. The reasons for entering that agreement have been well publicized. There's a substantial and significant safety benefit to the community, substantial and significant benefit to maintenance of our streets, as well as providing residents with a better rate for garbage collection. After the board's approval on May 8th, 2017, flyers, letters, and information in our newsletter were sent out on June 5th, again on June 12th, and again on July 14th. Two public hearings were held at the Village Hall where residents were invited to attend and ask questions, and a representative from Groot Industries was at those meetings on June 20th and July 12th. Throughout this process, we've had a page on our website devoted to this program where we've posted new information, old information, and continue to update that website, and we will continue to do so. We've used our social media sites to provide information, to provide continuous updates and reminders about the program. Residents have been taking advantage of the senior discount by registering at the Village Hall. All that is required is showing of a driver's license with your home address and birthday. As of this afternoon, we hit the 500 mark on seniors who have registered for the senior discount. Beginning today, and in fact I was told at 2 o'clock this afternoon that by the end of today, all of the residents north of Plainfield will have had their new Groot cans delivered, those who are getting new Groot cans. Existing Groot customers had the option of keeping the cans they already had or switching them out. They will continue, Groot will continue to be delivering carts all week long. They hope to finish by the end of this week, but it may blend over into Monday or Tuesday at the latest. Also this week, if your garbage pickup, whatever date your garbage pickup is scheduled for, that will be the last pickup from your current provider, assuming you're not already with Groot. Your current provider will then, after their last pickup, they will pick up your cans either immediately or within a day or so of their last pickup service. If there are any problems in that transitional period, residents are encouraged to call me or call the Village Hall or visit the Village Hall, and we'll help you through that process. The first bills from Groot will begin arriving next week, with the first day of service being August 3rd for residents south of 79th Street and August 4th for residents north of 79th Street. And service will then continue on Thursdays and Fridays. As we've said before, on holiday weeks, typically the service will be one day late, Friday and Saturday instead of Thursday and Friday. So really, today was the first day of this program really getting kicked off, the beginning of the delivery of carts. So far, things are going well. I think our publicity and our attempts to get the information out seem to have been successful to date, at least after one day. But regardless, our front office staff is well prepared to answer questions. And if there are any problems from any residents have any questions, do not hesitate to call me or call the Village Hall or come visit us, and we'll help you through the process.
Yes, and I know information is on our website, but also the easy one to get to is just groot.com, GROOT.com. On the right-hand side, it's right up front about the agreement with Burr Ridge. Click on that, it gives all the information on the agreement. It's very, very thorough, so any additional information. They're encouraged to call Groot versus the Village Hall, but we're, as our village administrator said, that they're more than welcome to do so. There are other options, though, I understand. I don't know if Trustee Francis wants to add as far as what the residents have options of as far as the actual receptacles.
Well, there are some, there's receptacle options and also service options. The standard package is a 95-gallon tote bin for waste and a 65-gallon tote bin for recyclable materials. But if a resident chooses, and that's what will be delivered automatically unless a resident chooses otherwise, and he can have 65 and 65 or a 65-gallon waste bin and a 95-gallon recycle bin or multiple bins. Extra bins are available for rent for a small fee of $5 per month if they need more than the standard one bin arrangement. And there's other options available, such as what we call backdoor service, where the bin is placed at the top of the driveway, and the service technician walks it down, empties it, brings it back up. Or there's another option for returning the carts to the top of the driveway. Let's say you're out of town for the weekend, you don't want your tote bins left at the curb all weekend, so you can pay for an additional service, and they'll pick the bins up at the curb and then return them back to the top of the driveway. Doug mentioned the senior citizens option, where they can get a cost reduction of 2.5% per year. And also this agreement is for a 5-year term period with 2.5% increases negotiated ahead of time per year. There'll be no additional admin fees, fuel surcharges, documentation fees, landfill fees, tipping fees, no other additional fees that you see on your bill currently. Those all go away. And most importantly, there are no more stickers required for landscape waste. Landscape waste is unlimited, as well as waste stream and your recycle stream. I did want to add that the 2 village information public hearings went well on June 20th and July 12th. Many residents turned out, asked a great many number of questions, which Doug was able to answer, and also Frank Hilligans from Group. I answered all the questions of the residents. I thought they went well. So, compliments to Doug and Frank.
Yeah, there was another option I was surprised at, because we don't necessarily use that much recycle with just 2 of us at the house most of the time. They have a 35-gallon one available for recyclables, but also a 65-gallon for garbage. If you don't want the larger one, they have that available to them also. Matter of fact, I was able to interview Frank Hilligans this past Friday, for my weekly summary of wrap up what happened around the village, called the Friday Wrap. And at the very bottom, I have a video that explains all the different features that will be. I'll send that out again this Friday, and also eventually when Janet gets back, maybe put on the website as well. To if anybody wants to not want to read things, just watch a quick little video, and that's covered too. So, but a great job on that for everybody that was on that, and Trustee Francis for leading that charge. It really is an historic moment in the village. It's or at least monumental to have that done, but for all the right reasons, and it will be commencing August 1st. So, Village Administrator, any other comments on that?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I will note that it's really his first official presentation, second board meeting, but as village administrator, where it was actually on the agenda and you covered it, so, you know, congratulations and welcome to this side of the dais. So, okay, next we have a discussion of process and scheduling for the biennial strategic planning session. Now you get your second chance.
Thank you. Yes, we have in our budget, and we have talked in the recent past about doing a strategic planning session with the board. We have done this approximately every 2 years. Whenever there's a quote-unquote new board meeting after an election, when there's maybe 1 or 2 or more new trustees, we try to schedule, or we have scheduled a strategic planning session where we talk about what strategic goals that the board wants to work on and wants staff to work on. And then that kind of sets the roadmap for the village for the next 2 years. And beyond, because some of those goals go well beyond just a 2-year period. And then we report back periodically to the board on the progress on those goals. As an example, 2 years ago, research and review of a possible franchise agreement with the scavenger service was one of the strategic goals, and that's what, as a result, we worked on that, and now we're implementing that. So the purpose of this presentation is just to get feedback from the board on how you want to proceed with the strategic planning. I outlined some options in the staff summary for tonight's board meeting. What we have typically done in the past is a 3-hour goal-setting workshop. We've used a hired facilitator of some of those sessions. Other times, it's just been a staff leading that experience. It is our staff's preference to hire a facilitator just so that staff can act as a member of the planning team as opposed to being the facilitator. We've also done multi-day team workshops in the past, a couple of times, where we've maybe met on a Friday afternoon or Friday evening and talked about team building and visioning, and then come back on a Saturday, half a day or 2/3 of a day, and actually worked on strategic goals. One of the consultants I talked to did talk about the community workshop process, which we've not done before. That's a much more extensive process where you actually involve residents and key community representatives over a several-month period. And of course, that process is much more time-consuming and much more expensive. So I would like some feedback from the village board on how you'd like to proceed. I'd like to get this going in September. September always seems like a good time to start talking about goals and process. And so, you know, whatever if you have any questions about it or any comments, I would welcome those at this time.
What I would like to do is I'd just like to tee this up a little bit first, and that is, as far as the question is not if, its question is when and for how long. And the 3 different options, just to simplify, I think I'd like to just suggest that the choices might be half day, full day, or a day and a half in duration. And for this type of meeting, and also timing. We talked about September, but it's, I think another time frame might also be an option. But think in terms of half a day to get what we want out of a brainstorming session, and comparing notes and bouncing different ideas off each other, and also to be directed and be able to get information from other sources. What time frame? How long do you think it should be? Half day, full day, day and a half, and when? Trustee Baveza.
Well, I've been involved in quite a few of them, and I feel that, especially since we've only got 2 new trustees, that one day, like a Saturday morning and afternoon, should allow us to accomplish whatever we want to do. In the morning session, the idea of getting started, and then the afternoon session of finalizing what you want to do. And I think one-day session would be enough, and again, I'll listen to what Doug has to say, but we've had some outside facilitators that did a good job, and we've had some that have really didn't accomplish much. So, I'm open to an outside one, but from what I understand in the past, we've gotten just as much by getting the staff involved.
Okay. Anyone else like to express an opinion?
Yeah,
Trustee Model?
I would be happy with, as you recommended, a one-day, maybe perhaps consider it, though, as 2 half-days. Sometimes it's nice to leave and think overnight about some of the things and come back again, as opposed to trying to jam it all in one day where you don't have necessarily time to think about things. But I would defer to the group. I don't have a real preference. And as far as hiring someone or doing it ourselves, again, I would need to hear more about costs and who and what. I have had in previous experiences good experiences with SCORE, Service Corps of Retired Executives, and they're pretty reasonably priced, and I think I've gotten some very good service out of it. So I would encourage you to consider them. I think there's a Chicago chapter as well, and I think they're pretty much volunteer, but they do take a small fee to cover their costs. So.
I would agree with Trustee Model. I think we should be able to achieve what we need to within a day, and 2 half-days might make sense because then you have some time to kind of, mull over things and do some research if you need to. So maybe 2 Saturday mornings if that works with people's schedules, or that way we're not like tying ourselves, using up a whole Saturday. And when you said people who conducted these meetings in the past, the ones that you had a favorable experience with, would it make sense to just re-invite someone, or?
Yeah, I think Trustee Model made a very good suggestion. I'll look into that. We'll look into that. We'll look into the people we've used in the past, and the cost is really a function of how good the person is. It's worth it if they're really good. It's not worth it if they're not. So I think we'll do some more research there.
Trustee Schiappa?
Doug, I don't know if you can answer, I know the difference between the 3 options is time and money, but what's the difference in results that would we get?
Well, what I've termed as the 3-hour goal-setting workshop would focus entirely on goals, as we did in 2016, where we just come in and we brainstorm goals and then discuss those goals and then vote on those goals, basically. Adding to that would be more team building and visioning and talking about, maybe doing the consultants we've used in the past have done exercises where for team building amongst the board members, helping the board members get to know each other and what their different perspectives are on being a trustee and being a resident. So it just gets involved more on that side of the equation. And then obviously the community workshop is where you actually reach out to community members.
Trustee Snyder?
Sorry,
I like the half-days. So personally, if you follow up for Doug's idea of doing maybe a half a Friday afternoon and finish it on Saturday morning. I'm in the meeting on Friday. If you have some good points, bad points, I may have reached out to another trustee. Come back Saturday morning, you can pretty much finish up. The all-day, personally, I'm not big on all-day events. Second of all, there is a SCORE chapter, Senior Corps in LaGrange. I've used those folks over there also.
I'm sorry, you can't hear you?
SCORE also has a chapter in LaGrange, Illinois, too.
Oh, that's right. Excellent. And Trustee Francis?
I like the half-day concept. I think you try and push us through it in a full day. You get burnt out there towards the end, and your creativity isn't as sharp as it was in the morning. A half-day for goal setting, a half-day for team building, I'm fine with that. That's okay. If we have staff run it, I've experienced 2 of these. Staff ran one of them. We hired an outside consultant to run the other one, and I think they both were productive. So,
Yep, okay.
if we want to save some money, we don't have, we don't have, we have staff run it. If we want to invest in a meeting moderator, I would call it, that would be fine as well.
You know, I like that idea. I hadn't heard that idea about 2 half-days for the reasons that Zach had mentioned just a little while ago, but it reminds me of a story about Andrew Carnegie getting some advice from an efficiency expert one day, and he was told to, before retiring, post and prioritize, because when you post your goals for the next day and your accomplishments for the day the night before, the idea is your mind, your subconscious never sleeps, and so that's processing all information. And sometimes when you plant a seed, you're looking for a solution to a problem, you do it the night before. So I applaud Trustee Model and for kicking out the idea. Everybody kind of chiming in because from historically and psychologically, that's a very beneficial way of doing it. And a Friday and Saturday would be perhaps an option. Trustee Patel?
So are we going, I mean, I haven't done this process before, but is there some way of involving the community? Do we like survey the community as to what they would like to see change in the village and, have like this 10-question?
Actually, we have a survey that's always every year.
I was remiss in not mentioning that. We always precede this with our community survey, and we'll be doing that in our early fall newsletter. So we would have those results fresh in hand when we started this process. Thank you.
So that's why at this point we probably have to wait till September to have the meeting.
Right.
To get the time out. And
Is October October a possibility as well? I have a few bogeys I'm looking at in September already, but I'll work with whatever y'all come up with, so.
When people are available, October's fine too. I'll find out what the schedule is for the newsletter survey. That may push us into October anyway.
Yeah.
I concur with Trustee Model.
Me too, I concur.
October.
Yeah.
Is October better for
October is
everybody?
better. September is not good.
What I thought made the 2016 goals setting session productive in a 3-hour time period is that we were all given homework assignments and we came prepared with goals, what we had in mind, what we thought we could improve upon here in the village, what residents talk to us about all the time, what they like to see for the betterment of the village. And so we came in with ideas fresh in our mind, and we had a little bit of history, what was mentioned in the 2013-14 goal setting session. So we weren't coming in cold and coming up with these brilliant ideas. We already had things in place, and then we presented those ideas, and then we listened to our other trustees and their ideas, and then we selected the best ones out of those ideas. So it was productive in that sense.
Excellent. Any other questions?
I think I have the direction I need. I mean, I know I have a time frame, so that makes it a little bit easier for me to reach out to consultants. I'll reach out to the consultants we've used in the past. I'll contact the SCORE group that's been referenced, and kind of continue to brainstorm and bring something back to you at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other, under K, under other considerations for announcements, deliberation and or discussion only? Anything else to discuss, mention? Moving on to residents' comments. Any residents like to address the board again this time? Reports and communications from village officials.
So I did have one thing I wanted to mention to the board that I am working on and your staff is working on with the, I'll say, reorganization of at the village administrator level and department level. I am working on a municipal code update to the administration section of the municipal code where it describes the functions of the various departments. And that has not been updated in years. It's a little bit outdated. So I'll be looking at community development as it was organized previously, public works, finance, the village treasurer's office, all the different areas that are mentioned in that municipal code section of the of the village's municipal code. And that is available on the website if anyone wants to take a look at it to see what we're working on. I just wanted to mention that. That'll be coming out probably in upcoming board meetings.
Trustee Scapa?
So if there are any residents just joining the board meeting now, one last reminder, the group has begun delivery of carts. And the first pickup will occur on Thursday, August 3rd, south of 79th Street, and Friday, August 4th, for residents north of 79th Street.
A reminder. And one thing, if for those residents that knew about it or didn't know about it, there was quite an emotional event that occurred here last Sunday, where Burr Ridge was the second to last stop for an organization called COPS, the Concerns of Police Survivors. They're doing a Cycle Across Illinois event, and because of our Sergeant Michael Barnes being so heavily involved in it, and Chief John Madden so supportive of the organization, they actually made Burr Ridge as one of the final stops on their 400 to 500 mile trek across Illinois, cycling. And these were people that were sometimes my age and older. You know, they very impressive that they rode across Illinois to raise awareness and funds for police survivors. And there was 60 of them came up through here. There was a police escort, state police, local police. They came to the police department at 9 a.m. on Sunday with Chief John Madden and his crew, and then we followed them over to Oak Brook afterward. If they do come through again, I encourage everybody to attend. I don't know how well advertised it was. I know I got the text and they had to be there. So it's called COPS, Concerns of Police Survivors, and it's an incredible organization that does just that. So, anything else? Now we have a section for our non-residents. Are there any non-residents that like to address the board at this time?
Good evening. My name is Dolores Cesar. I'm a former trustee. Now, at the last board meeting, I brought up the fact that about 50 municipalities had opted out of the ordinances that the Cook County Board had mandated. Now, I see that exactly 3 months ago tonight, this board adopted an ordinance that would opt out the village. But the reason that I overlooked the ordinances, if you follow on the first page down at the bottom, the reason I overlooked these ordinances was because the budget for fiscal year 2017-18 was adopted that night, and I was concerned that over half of the 13 village funds are expected to show a deficit at the end of the year. So my attention was concentrated on the budget, not on what Cook County had mandated. However, since that time, the Cook County Commissioner, who was Larry Sefferden, who sponsored this legislation, has threatened the municipalities that opted out with a lawsuit. And I provided you with the article that ran in the Tribune on July 13th. Now, his position is, well, he says that he expects to file a lawsuit to be filed against Cook County municipalities who voted to not go along with the ordinances. And in the last 2 paragraphs, the forthcoming lawsuit, he said, will argue that because many of the towns that opted out are not home rule communities, and Burr Ridge is not a home rule community, they did not have the power to make that decision. In addition, he said that the Illinois Constitution does not give cities the opportunity to trump county decisions. So maybe you already know about this article that ran in the Tribune, that a lawsuit might be filed. I wanted you to be aware of that. The third item that I'm providing, about this time of year, a number of residents will be asking if there's going to be a free leaf pickup. And the village has never done that. Their position is we can't afford it. But there was an article in the Doings on July 20th that LaGrange has voted $45,000 in a contract for leaf hauling services. And they also point out what was the highest amount it spent, which was in 2015-16, which was over $68,000, and the lowest amount was $33,000 in 2012-13. Now, you know, the village spends a tremendous amount of money on beautification, but that really does not help the residents, whereas leaf service is important. Now, when we lived on County Line, we used to rake our leaves around the house, and then we would have a bonfire. And we would roast marshmallows, we would cook hot dogs, we would go in the barn and dunk for apples, and it was a fun night. We did that with our neighbors, the Dunroses. Well, that's kind of down the road, not going to come back again. But it's something that the village needs to think about, providing free leaf service. Thank you.
Mayor, could I respond to the ordinance comment? Thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to comment about the ordinance. It's actually 97 municipalities that have actually opted out. And out of, I certainly respect the commissioner's position, but, his county certainly has more pressing budget issues than suing 97 municipalities. And we did certainly research the issue before we adopted it. And I feel that it was, adequately researched, and the village is in good standing in adopting that ordinance.
Thank you. Trustee Francis?
I want to make a comment about the leaf pickup. As of August 3rd, we will have free leaf pickup. Residents will be able to dispose of their leaves in unlimited quantities at no extra charge through Groot Industries.
Thank you.
Well, when it comes to all the budget issues that Cook County deals with, I read an article in the Tribune that often people might think about it, but they don't realize who gets charged for it. But with all these shootings that are going on in Chicago, who pays for all the hundreds and hundreds of people that are shot every week? And they just had in the Tribune how much that bill is and who's paying for it.
Right. You and I.
No. Anyone else? May I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Trustee Skiappa.
Yes.
Trustee Snyder.
Yes.
Trustee Matal.
Yes.
Trustee Paveza.
Yes.
Trustee Model.
Yes.
Trustee Francis.
Yes.
Meeting is officially adjourned. Thank you again, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us.